Hello everyone, welcome to Book Club Preview. Today we're looking at Charlie Thorne and the Last Equation, Chapter 20 and 21. It starts off with Charlie in the car really just asserting her position. This is not an equation. And Rats in this whole chapter, actually these two chapters, is a real jerk about this whole thing. And he's like, are you sure it's not an equation? Yes, I'm sure it's not an equation. How can you be sure it's not an equation? Because an equation would look like this, this, and this, and this. Really? Are you sure? Are you smart enough? And finally, Milana actually starts to support Charlie and say, hey, look, Rats, you don't know what you're doing. You failed your part of the mission. Charlie's the only one actually doing something, so just give her a break. And Rats is really angry, but he quiets down. And Charlie's like, well, I really think it's a clue, because if we look at this equation like it might be an equation, it wouldn't make sense for these different reasons. So therefore, it probably means that if we look at these different things, they could be letters or numbers or location that tells us where Pandora is. And we call that a cipher. And so, but at any point, Charlie just says, look, it's going to take me a long time to solve this. Einstein was a super genius. I'm a super genius too, but he was a little bit higher than me. And I don't know if I can just solve this in a few hours. It could take me months, years. It could take me forever. Dante gets really, kind of rude, I think, at this point, where it's like, just solve it, or I'm going to tell Pandora I'm going to tell the FBI about Barracuda. So he really starts to threaten Charlie, which Charlie really doesn't like. Charlie's continuing looking at this piece of paper, trying to figure out what it is, as they drive through Old Jerusalem, which is, again, a lot of old things with modern things kind of clash together. And usually Charlie would be looking out at all the cool stuff, but she's so focused in on solving this puzzle that she doesn't. Finally, Milana's like, okay, Charlie, what do you have? What can you tell us? And she's like, well, I believe it's a cipher, meaning that these numbers represent letters or location. A cipher is a secret code. And she gives examples of this. Like the number 1 is A, the number 2 is B. So if I wanted to write hi, I could write, and I don't know the numbers for this, but like 13, 14, H and I. And that would be the cipher. And so she's pretty sure it's a cipher, although Rats debates her or challenges her. But again, Milana supports her, and Rats backs down. And then suddenly, oh, I think I got it. These variables, which are M, X, Y, the symbol pi, they actually, if you put them all together, are the Roman numeral for 1931. That's the year that Einstein was in Berlin. Ooh, okay, it's a good clue, but it's just a little piece of a clue, but they can go somewhere with it. Well, they finally get to some location. There's a camera, there's a gate. Oh, okay, this looks like a safe house. And they go in into the garage, and they start to unpack their stuff. Now, Rats and Milana go first, and Charlie's like, hey, what's between you and Milana? And Dante's like, well, nothing. There's nothing going on between us. She's like, you like her, don't you? And Dante's ears turn a little red, but his face is still, our relationship is completely professional. And then she says, I think she likes you too. And then Dante breaks a little bit. You think so? You really think so? And then Charlie's like, I got you. I knew you liked her. And then Charlie teases Dante a lot, and slowly Dante starts to open up, and Rats and Milana are climbing up some stairs, and they stop to look at Dante and Charlie, and Dante's like, oh yeah, you can go back. Milana kind of lingers and then goes. And Charlie's like, oh, did you see that look? That look she just gave you? Oh, she definitely likes you. She's looking at you like this. And Dante looks over at her, and Charlie's like, and they start laughing. And right as Dante's starting to feel a little bit more comfortable, Charlie uses her knee and goes, cool! Oh! Right in Dante's groin. He probably falls to the floor, and Charlie runs out of the house. Her plan to protect Pandora from the CIA and from the Furies. And so she is on her own. Vocabulary. Derision. Derision is like mocking someone, copying them, or acting to them in a really bad way of just being mean or rude, like Rats is doing. Crotchety. Crotchety just means like grumpy. And then we often say crotchety old man, or in this case, she says crotchety stick in the mud. A stick in the mud is something that's no fun to play with. So if you have a stick and you're playing with it and it lands in the mud, oh, you don't want to really play with it anymore. And your friend that doesn't really want to play or do something fun, you can call that person a stick in the mud. And Einstein was kind of a stick in the mud for quantum mechanic professors. So quantum mechanics is really complex and crazy. And Einstein was always saying like, no, it's too complex. It should be simple. It's probably more simple. And they just probably thought he was just old and didn't want to change his ways. Falafel, this is a kind of food from the Middle East. It's a ball that's like deep fried in some stuff. And I don't know if I've ever eaten one, but you can Google a picture and look at it yourself. Tartly is like sourly, saying something with a little bit of, bite to it. And Rats and Charlie certainly are responding tartly to each other. Seething is really angry, like just, you can feel the heat coming off. You just, oh man. And Rats is seething when Milana defends Charlie and really says, Rats, you've done a lot of stupid stuff. And now, discussion question. Have you ever wished someone liked you? Okay, I know this is a pretty tough question to answer. I'm sure the answer is yes, but I want to hear the story. I think a lot of us have had that, like, oh, did that person look at me? Oh, is that person thinking about me too, wondering if I like them? Have you ever had that situation? I want to hear the story about it. And of course, please make your own discussion question. That is all the time that we have for today, but thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Book Club Preview. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.